Chapter 1 The City Boy. Sam looked at his watch. He was almost there. Out of the train window, he could see a bright moon. There were trees and a river with boats sitting on the water. He began to get worried. What if this wasn't the right station? What if his uncle wasn't there to pick him up? The train started to go slower. "We're now arriving at Melton Station," the train driver said. Phew! This was the right place. He picked up his bags, got off the train, and watched it leave. Sam lived in London, where there was always noise, lights, and people. Here in the countryside, it was quiet, dark, and for the first time, he was completely alone. Sam took a deep breath. "Don't be such a baby," he said to himself. "There's nothing to worry about." As he waited, he saw that it wasn't as quiet or as dark as he thought. There were birds calling on the river. When he looked up, he saw thousands and thousands of stars. It was a beautiful sky. School was over for the summer. Sam's mom and dad were working. His brother had a job in a hotel, and his sister was in France, looking after some children. "Why don't you go and stay with my brother Andy in Ronsford?" Dad said to Sam at the beginning of the holidays. "He lives near a river, and the sea isn't far away. It'll be fun." Andy went to work for a computer company in America when Sam was 6, but he was back in England now. Sam didn't really remember him. A car stopped in front of the station, and a tall man got out. "Hello, Sam," said the big man, with an even bigger smile on his face. "I'm your Uncle Andy." He took Sam's hand. "It's good to see you." Sam sat in the car, feeling tired and small next to his uncle. They drove past houses, then through a forest. Andy asked about Sam's family. "They're fine," Sam said. "They send their love. Dad said he'll come and see us in a week." And he closed his eyes. When Sam woke up, it was light, and he was lying in bed. There were noises downstairs. He got out of bed and almost hit his head on the ceiling. The house was small and very old. How could his uncle live here? Sam found the kitchen, and 2 black and white dogs came to say hello. "That's Rosie, and that's Spike. They like you," Andy said, carrying a big plate of eggs, beans, and bread to the table. "Eat this up, young man. We're going down to the river after this. I've got a surprise for you." After breakfast, Sam followed Andy down to the water. There were lots of boats on the river, some for fishing, but most were sailing boats. "Here we are," Andy said. "This is for you." Sam gave his biggest smile. There, in front of him, was a little sailing boat. "I'm going to teach you how to sail," said Andy. "Come on." They got the boat ready and were soon out on the river. And at the end of the afternoon, he had another surprise for Sam. "Right. I think you're ready to go out without me," he said. Sam wasn't so sure he could sail the boat alone, but he went anyway. He sailed across to the other side of the river and then back again, going up the river. He was so happy. The boat was sailing beautifully until the boat stopped so quickly that Sam almost fell into the water. "Oh no," he said. "I can't move." Sam didn't understand what was happening. He tried to turn the boat, but it wouldn't move. "Take this," someone shouted. There was a sailing boat behind him with a girl in it. She stood up and threw him a rope. "Use this rope and I'll pull your boat free." Sam took the rope. The girl turned her boat to catch the wind, and soon he was moving again. "You should look where you're going. The water isn't deep enough there," shouted the girl. "Didn't you see?" "Sorry," said Sam. He threw the rope back to her, and she left. He was more careful after that. Perhaps sailing wasn't so easy. He went back to his uncle, feeling unhappy at his mistake, but Andy said not to worry. They cleaned the boat and put it away in a building full of boats and engines. When they came out, the girl walked over to them. She looked angry. "You shouldn't be on the water if you don't know how to sail," she said. "Hello, Rachel," Andy said. "This is Sam from London." "He's from London?" said Rachel. "Those city kids don't know anything." She walked away. Andy looked at Sam and laughed. His face was bright red. "Don't worry about her," Andy said. "This is her home. She just doesn't like visitors much." They went back to feed the dogs and make some dinner. "Can you get these potatoes ready, Sam?" Andy asked. "I'm making a chicken pie." Sam still felt bad about the girl, but when he heard the words chicken pie, he started to feel better. While Sam washed the potatoes, he told Andy all about his life in London, his friends, the music he liked. Then he stopped. He didn't usually talk that much. His brother and sister always had a lot to say, so no one really listened to him at home. His uncle smiled at him again. "Dinner's ready," he said. "The pie was the best." After dinner, Andy showed Sam a map. "Here's the village, the river, and that," he said, laughing, "is Hayden Island, where Rachel saved you. It's only 2 kilometers wide, and on the other side is the sea. No one goes on the island except the rangers." "The rangers?" asked Sam. "Lisa and Tom," answered Andy. "There are some special birds and plants on the island, and the rangers look after them." "Oh, I see," said Sam. "Can we go there?" "Only with Lisa or Tom. We have to keep the birds and plants safe." Later, Sam lay in bed, thinking about his day. It was all so different from London. The strangest thing was the light that came into his room. It traveled across his ceiling, and then it went away, leaving his room dark. After a few seconds, it was back. Then it disappeared again and again. Chapter 2. A Strange Visitor. The next morning, Sam ate his breakfast quickly and ran to the river. He pulled his new boat down to the water and started to get it ready. "I'm sorry I was angry yesterday." Sam turned round. It was Rachel. "Well, I'm sorry you had to save me," Sam answered. "Friends?" said Rachel. friends, said Sam. We could go sailing together today. I can come with you, show you the river if you like, Rachel said. That sounds great, Sam answered. So Sam sailed the boat, while Rachel told him about the river and how to be safe on the water. Best of all, she told him how to make the boat go fast. Sam loved being out on the water. He turned round and saw they were far from the village. "You're getting really good," said Rachel. "Now, let me show you Hayden Island." "But my uncle said we could only go with the rangers." "I go where I want," Rachel said, smiling. They sailed the boat onto Hayden Island and tied it to a tree. At the top of the beach, Sam found the answer to his question from the night before. There, about 2 kilometers away, was a tall building painted red and white, with glass all round the top. "That's Hayden Lighthouse," said Rachel. "Let's go and see it." They started walking, but after a few minutes they had to stop. Lying on the path was a white bird with a long black beak asterisk that looked like a spoon. It had thin fishing rope around its legs. It certainly couldn't fly. It couldn't even walk. "We'll take it to my mom at her office. She's Lisa, one of the rangers your uncle told you about," said Rachel. "Oh," said Sam, "that explains a lot." They put the bird onto one of the sails from the boat and carried it to a building in the middle of Hayden Island. Lisa was worried about the bird. "This looks serious," she said. She got some scissors and started to cut the rope. The bird's legs and feet were badly hurt. When she finished, she put the bird in a large box with some food and water. "Is it going to be okay?" Sam asked. "It should rest for a few days, but I think it'll be okay," she explained. "Well done, you two. I think you've saved that poor bird." "What is it?" asked Rachel. "I've never seen one of those before." "It's called a spoonbill because of its long beak," said Lisa. "It's a very special bird. There are only about 10 of them in the whole of the UK. Lisa went over to the fridge. "Here you are," she said, giving them a cold drink and some biscuits. "You've earned those." At that moment, there was a loud noise from a small radio on the table. Lisa picked it up. "Lisa!" It was a man's voice. "Get here quickly. I've found the perfect place for the Americans to arrive." "Where are you?" Lisa asked the man. "I'm at the south of Hayden Island. Oh, and Lisa, don't tell anyone where you're going." "Okay," said Lisa, looking at the 2 kids. "We won't say a word," said Rachel. Lisa jumped in her truck and drove off. Sam looked at Rachel. "Who was that on the radio? And who are the Americans?" asked Sam. "That was my dad, Tom, on the radio. I don't know who the Americans are," said Rachel. "The lighthouse will be boring after all that," she said. "But let's go anyway." "Dad's is coming to stay." Sam didn't find the lighthouse boring at all. It was wonderful. He stood looking up at it, red and white on the blue sky, and it was right next to the sea. They walked round it until they came to a large door with a sign above. The sign had 4 big sailing boats on it and some words in Latin. They tried the door, but it didn't open. At that moment, they heard an engine. They looked round the side of the lighthouse and saw a boat coming fast towards them. There were 2 men on the boat, wearing black clothes, and they did not look friendly. Next to the lighthouse was an old building. "Quick, let's go in here," said Sam, pulling Rachel inside. They pushed the door shut, but left it open a little so they could see. The boat arrived at the beach and the engine stopped. The men jumped out and pulled the boat out of the water. They started carrying boxes and bags towards where Sam and Rachel were. They came closer and closer, but fortunately they didn't stop. They walked past until they got to the lighthouse. One of the men was dark, the other was blonde, but they both had short hair and looked very strong. The blonde man took out a key and opened the lighthouse door, and they went inside. A few minutes later, they came out, and the blonde man spoke. "Is it all working, Robert?" he asked the other man. "Yes," answered Robert. "I can listen to every conversation on Hayden Island. I can also hear what the rangers and other people are saying on their phones here and in the village." "Good," said the blonde man. "I'm going back to the village." Sam and Rachel looked at each other in surprise. The blonde man left on the boat. Robert went into the lighthouse and closed the door. Rachel and Sam waited 5 more minutes. Then, without saying a word, they left the old building and walked very quietly back to Sam's boat on the other side of Hayden Island. They got in the boat, but didn't speak until they were almost back at the village. "Who were those men?" asked Sam. "I don't know, but they weren't American." "Their accents were certainly English," said Rachel. "So we still don't know who the Americans are." Rachel looked excited, but Sam was starting to feel worried. He tried to understand what was happening, but it really was impossible. When they got to Rachel's house, they went round to the back door and looked through the kitchen window. There was a man sitting at the table with Rachel's dad, but they couldn't see his face. Then the visitor turned round, and Sam stopped. "Oh no," he said to Rachel. "It's the blonde man from the lighthouse." Chapter 3. Smugglers. Next morning, Rachel arrived at Andy's back door very early. The dogs looked happy to see her. Sam was eating another big breakfast. "Hello," said Andy. "You're just in time for coffee." "Hello, Rachel," said Sam, with a mouth full of food, but he didn't speak again. Rachel was sitting at the table looking quietly at her cup of tea. Andy was looking at them both. "You're very quiet, you two. What's wrong? Do you want to tell me something?" Andy said. Sam looked at Rachel. "Okay," she said. "You tell him." So Sam told Andy everything about the day before. When he finished, Andy's face went white. "Who is the man staying with you?" he asked Rachel. "He's called Michael," she answered. "Dad says he's an old friend from university, but I've never heard Dad talk about him." Andy sat down at the table with them. The dogs followed and sat at his feet. Stay away from Hayden Island for now, okay? Andy said. Then he smiled. I'm not sure what's happening, but your dad will be upset with me, Sam, if you get hurt. He laughed when he said that, but it certainly wasn't a real laugh. But why? Asked Sam. What are those men doing? For hundreds of years, this village was used by smugglers, Andy explained. The whole area became famous for it. People brought things here from Holland and France, and the police tried to stop them. Go on, Sam and Rachel said together. This was exciting. Andy laughed, for real this time. Well, the most famous smuggler was a woman called Margaret Catchpole. She was born near here in 1762. She was in love with a dangerous smuggler, William Laud. Some people say they were on Hayden Island when the police found them. Wow, said Sam. Yes, but don't think smugglers were nice people. They were not, said Andy. People sometimes died because of what they did, and that is why I'm telling you this story. Modern smugglers are just as bad, perhaps even worse. Oh, I see, said Sam. So you think that Michael and the man at the lighthouse are smugglers? Asked Rachel. I'm sure of it, said Andy, standing up. Now, can you take Rosie and Spike for a walk for me? I've got to go out. When they heard the word walk, the two dogs started running about. Here's some money for an ice cream. Andy gave them £5. Then he picked up his car keys, left the house, and drove away. Where's he going? Asked Rachel. Said Sam. I don't know, but I don't like it. I don't think the men in black are smugglers, do you, Rachel? No, I don't, she said. They're waiting for something, and I think your uncle knows what that something is. I think it's the Americans. Rachel and Sam took the dogs to the river and walked north. They had so many questions. Why did Andy leave so quickly? Why was he so worried? What were Tom and Lisa doing at the south of Hayden Island? Who were the Americans? What was the real story? It was a beautiful day, and the dogs wanted to run. Rachel and Sam soon forgot their questions. They walked and talked for a long time until Rachel said, "Oh, where are the dogs?" They called and called, Rosie, Spike, but the dogs didn't come. Shh, what was that? Asked Sam. It sounded like a woof to me. They went on a few meters. Then they had a terrible surprise because the blond man walked onto the path in front of them. He had the two dogs with him, and down on the river was his boat. How nice to see you, Rachel, Michael said, but he did not smile. As you can see, I found your dogs. Take them back to your Uncle Andy, Sam. This part of the river path is closed. You cannot walk here. Okay, thanks for telling us, and thank you for finding our dogs, Michael, said Rachel, looking sweet. Sam looked at her. What was she doing? Come on, Sam. Let's go and get that ice cream. She turned and walked back, calling the dogs, with Sam running behind her. They didn't stop until they were outside the village shop. Well, Rachel said with a big smile, this is getting exciting. Now we know where Michael keeps his boat. Yes, but how does that help us? Asked Sam. I don't know, Rachel answered, but it's information, and all information is good when you're in the middle of an adventure. Did you tell that man that Andy was my uncle? No, I didn't, answered Rachel. So, how did he know? And how did he know my name? Sam felt sick. Perhaps Andy was right. Perhaps Michael and the other man were dangerous smugglers. They left the dogs outside the shop with some water and went to get their ice creams. Sam always had the same ice cream, so he was quick. But Rachel took a long time to choose. As they walked out of the shop, Lisa arrived in her truck. "Hello, you two," she said. "I'm sorry about leaving you yesterday. Would you like to come and look at the spoonbill with me?" That was better. The kids and dogs jumped into the truck, and Lisa drove down to the river. "But how are we going to cross the river?" asked Sam, looking over to Hayden Island. Lisa got out of the truck and walked to a wide, flat boat in front of them. There was a man on the boat. He saw Lisa and smiled. Then the engine started. "This is how," said Lisa, getting back into the truck. She drove towards the boat. What was she doing? Sam was sure the boat wasn't big enough to carry the truck. Lisa drove carefully and slowly onto the boat. Of course, it was exactly the right size, but it was really noisy and the dogs went crazy. Sam sat in the truck looking at the water while they crossed the river. This was amazing. "You don't get things like this in London," shouted Rachel, over the noise of the dogs and the boat engine. "No, you don't," said Sam. This is much better than London, he thought. But he didn't say that to Rachel. He didn't want her to win. Chapter 4. We've got to stop them. Sam opened his eyes. It was the middle of the night. He lay in his bed, watching the light from the lighthouse travel across his ceiling. Light, then dark. Light, then dark. What was that noise? There it was again. Someone was at the front door under his window. Sam sat up in bed and listened. The front door opened, and he could hear some people talking quietly. Sam was sure one of them was his uncle. But who were the others? They came into the house and went into the kitchen. Someone told the dogs to be quiet. Then the kitchen door was shut. Sam got out of bed immediately and got dressed, using the light from the lighthouse to help him find his things. He didn't put his trainers on. They could make too much noise, so he carried them. He opened his bedroom door and went as quietly as he could to the top of the stairs. The light from the lighthouse was coming into the hall. Light, dark, light, dark. Sam could hear a man's voice. "He's still at the lighthouse. I saw a light on in there last night. What are we going to do?" They were talking about the man called Robert. "We'll tell the Americans to go to the south of Hayden Island, to the place you found the other day, Tom." That was a voice that Sam knew. It was Andy, and he was speaking to Rachel's dad. "But Michael is still at our house. It's too dangerous," Tom answered. "We have to stop the whole thing." It's too late to stop now, Andy said. My American friends are already on their way. They are arriving in their boat later tonight. I phoned them from a cafe in Melton this morning. Michael and his man aren't listening to that phone. So that was where Andy went so fast in his car this morning, thought Sam. I'm worried Michael will find your American friends before we do. Andy? That sounded like Lisa. If that happens, said Andy, then no one will know that the American computer company I worked for is stealing ideas from other computer companies. That's what my friends and I want the world to know, so that we can stop them. Andy, Lisa, and Tom started speaking more quietly. Sam couldn't hear what they were saying. Then he heard the back door close. They were leaving the house. Sam got his phone and sent a message to Rachel. Meet me at the river in 5 minutes. He put his trainers on and went down to the kitchen, saying, "Shh," to the dogs, but the back door didn't open. He ran to the front door, and that didn't open. He couldn't get out of the house. He ran into the kitchen and put a chair near the sink. He climbed up, opened the window, and jumped out into the dark night. Then he ran as fast as he could. Sam knew what he had to do now. He and Rachel had to help Andy. They had to find a way to stop Michael finding the Americans. It was completely quiet at the river. Sam waited for the light from the lighthouse to see if anyone was there. The light from the lighthouse came, traveling through the sky. He watched where it went, but he saw nothing. Then, in the dark before the light returned, he ran into the building where his boat was. Sam pushed the doors open and waited for the light to go past again. Then he pulled his boat down to the river. Where was Rachel? Oh no, the light was coming back again. Quick! He pushed and pulled, got the boat onto the water, and fell down flat. At that moment, the light traveled over his head. While Sam lay there, waiting for Rachel, a bright moon came up from behind Hayden Island. The moonlight looked like a silver path on the water, and the stars were shining. There were more stars than Sam thought possible. The boats sat on the river, and the birds called quietly in the night. Behind it all was the yellow light of the lighthouse, traveling in a great circle across the sky. It was such a perfect night. It was difficult to think that anything bad could happen on Hayden Island. Where was Rachel? He waited and waited. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then there she was, running over to him in the dark. Where were you? Sam was angry. I couldn't find Mom and Dad. They weren't in the house, she said, looking worried. Michael was downstairs. I couldn't do anything. Then he left, and I followed him to his boat. He called Robert at the lighthouse. What did he say? Asked Sam. He's going to the lighthouse. Then he and Robert will both go to the south of Hayden Island, answered Rachel. Oh no, said Sam. We've got to stop them going there because that's where the Americans are arriving. Oh, I see, said Rachel. No, I'm not sure you do see, said Sam. We've got to stop them going south, because that's where your mom and dad have gone with Andy." At that moment, they heard a boat engine start up. In the moonlight, they could see it was Michael going slowly down the river. Rachel went white. Sam thought for a moment. "Did you bring your phone with you?" he said. "Yes, but," answered Rachel. "Then I think I have an idea," said Sam with a smile. "Come on." They got into the boat as quietly as they could and pushed off into the river, but nothing happened. The boat didn't move. "We'll never catch Michael," said Sam. "Shh," said Rachel. "Pull this rope." He did what she said, and the wind filled the sails. The boat turned, and they were sailing south after Michael, with the lighthouse drawing circles in the sky above their heads. Sam smiled. "You know how to sail this boat," he said to Rachel. "Shh," she said again, but he knew she was smiling. Rachel sailed the boat down the river until the river ended. Then she turned them towards the moon, and Sam felt sick for the second time that day. They were going round the south of Hayden Island and out into the sea. "Don't worry, city boy," said Rachel. "The lighthouse will show us the way." Chapter 5. A Brilliant Plan. Sam couldn't see Michael's boat now. He couldn't even hear the engine. Their little boat was moving up and down like a toy on the sea. It was dangerous, but Rachel sat quietly pulling ropes, turning the boat into the wind. They had a plan now, and Sam was sure it was a good one. They were sailing towards the lighthouse. The light came round, and Sam saw that Michael S. boat was almost at the lighthouse. Then the light went, and his boat was gone, and now the light was coming towards their little boat. "Please don't let Michael see us," said Sam, when the light hit them. But Michael went straight on. Sam watched the light move behind them. What was that? Was that another boat out at sea? "Rachel," he said, "I think the Americans are here." "Then let's give Michael and his friend something to think about," said Rachel. Michael's boat was on the beach now, in front of the lighthouse, but it was empty. "Good. He's gone inside the lighthouse," thought Sam. Then he called Rachel's phone. "Lisa," he said, trying to speak like his uncle. "This is Andy. I'm using Sam's phone. I think Michael is listening to my phone." "Yes, Andy. This is Lisa," Rachel said. "I've got Rachel's phone. What's the problem?" "We changed the plan," said Sam. "The Americans are arriving to the north of the lighthouse. They will be here in 5 minutes." "Okay, Andy. Tom and I will meet you there. Goodbye." They switched their phones off. "Let's hope this works," said Rachel. The wind was stronger now. They were flying through the water. They heard the engine on Michael's boat. Sam could see 2 men on it. He switched his phone on again. "Michael will see the light from my phone and think we're the Americans," he said. "Great idea," said Rachel. Michael and Robert were going fast now, and they were getting closer. Rachel sailed north, past the lighthouse. Then she turned and sailed towards Hayden Island. Here, near the island, the sea was flat. Their little boat stopped moving up and down. Sam looked round. Michael was almost there. Then Michael's boat stopped moving, and there was an angry shout. The water wasn't deep enough for Michael's boat, but Sam's boat was much smaller, and it didn't stop. Rachel turned the boat round. Michael and Robert watched them sail past, but they couldn't do anything. Their boat didn't move. "I think that will give the Americans enough time," said Rachel with a big smile. "Now, Sam, do you want to take us home?" It was almost light when they got back. When Sam arrived home, Andy was sitting at the kitchen table. He had his head in his hands. "Oh, thank God you're safe," he said when he saw Sam. He ran over and held Sam in his big arms. "But where were you?" Andy asked. "Rachel was teaching me how to sail at night," said Sam. Well, it was almost true. When Sam woke, it was light, and he was very hungry. He ran downstairs to the kitchen. Andy was cooking lunch. It was chicken pie again. The TV was on, and Rachel was waiting for him. "Michael left early this morning," Rachel said. "Mom said he was angry. She said he didn't even eat breakfast." "Shh," said Andy, turning the TV up. "Important papers arrived in this country last night," the woman on the TV was saying. "They show that the big American computer company, USA Computers, was stealing ideas from other companies around the world." "But," said Sam, "isn't that where you worked, Andy?" "Yes," he said. "Now shh." During the night, the police took 4 men and women from houses in London, said the woman on TV. And American police took another 3 men in New York. All 7 worked for USA Computers. No one knows how the information arrived in the UK, but it is possible it came with smugglers from America. "So," said Rachel, smiling, "perhaps not all smugglers are bad. Are they, Andy?" Andy looked at her, surprised. "Now you two, what really happened last night?" Rachel and Sam looked at each other. Then they laughed and told him everything. "Wow," said Andy when they finished. "That was brilliant." "It was Sam's idea," explained Rachel. "Do you remember Andy, when I had to save him in his boat? He said if we could get Michael to follow us where the water isn't deep, then we could stop him and his boat." "So are we good smugglers, Andy?" asked Sam. "You're the best," he said, with a big smile, carrying the chicken pie to the table. At that moment, Rosie and Spike started running around and making a lot of noise. Then someone walked in through the back door. "Dad," said Sam, running over to his father. "What's all this about smugglers?" asked his dad. "It's a long story," said Sam, looking at the pie on the table. "Can't we eat first? Andy's chicken pie is the best." "Well, save some for me," said his dad, laughing. "I'd like some of this famous pie."